Welcome to the Stay at Work Home. We are here to question the prevailing assumptions about the meaning of life, work, and the purpose of people. Instead of being torn apart by our vocations, we want to be pulled together. Come along with us as we change our picture of the good life and pursue the home as God intended, one that worships through work together. Hi everybody, welcome to the Stay at Work Home. I'm Keith.
And I'm Becky.
And today we're going to come up with a title.
On the fly, right before your very eyes.
We haven't settled on one yet. Basically, we want to say that many parts of the great thesis of life have been tested.
You said feces, and I'm like, well, that was part of it.
There was a lot of feces, actually. Okay, so if you live in the Western world, that's not the developed world.
States.
If you have indoor plumbing,
yeah.
You're not used to dealing with feces. And actually, we never lost our indoor plumbing. It just got a little harder to use over the last few days because we lost power for 72 hours, which means that our well pump did not run. We did not have a way without significant work to make our well run.
We know how to make it.
We had a generator, but it wasn't running the well pump. And so we didn't have running water, but we still had our toilets.
Mm-hmm.
So
our sink drains,
yeah, all that. So we could go get water from the lake and other places. We could melt snow. We had gas, fireplace, gas stove, and a wood burning stove. So we're able to keep the house warm-ish and really as warm as we wanted to.
Well, we should set the stage for what were the actual conditions here? Because it's not like we just lost our power. We
lost
our
can't
power
get anywhere either.
In the middle of a excessive ice storm. So we got some snow, but mostly ice over the last week. It started on Sunday, and our whole world is beautiful, except for all of the fallen,
stuff
everywhere. Limbs.
Everywhere.
What do we call it? Carnage.
Power lines.
It's like the naiads. No, the dryads. Dryads. Which ones are the trees? The dryads. Thank you, Gracie. Yeah, the dryads are all over the place. It's sad. They've broken lots of their arms and such, their extremities. So we, going into this, we have done a little bit of power outage before, but what we've experienced at this particular house is ice that we can't get off the property. So being prepared as far as having the necessities, toilet paper and the foods.
We actually prepared well this time.
We were so proud of ourselves.
Somewhat well. So
what
did we do to prepare? We put the tractor undercover at the barn.
Mm-hmm.
We put my truck inside the barn so it wouldn't get covered in ice. We put Annika's car, which is a convertible, in the garage.
Mm-hmm.
We took the Volt outside and sacrificed it. And
the Suburban, we got to the top of the driveway. We're at the bottom of a hill. And so what our biggest problem has always been in the ice is that we can't get up the hill four-wheel drive in a Suburban. And the Suburban's heavy.
And in snow, we can get up just fine, but you put ice
under it.
That's a problem. So also during the ice storm itself, I don't know, probably an inch into it, 3/4 of an inch to an inch into it. I think we got probably an inch and a half total of ice.
Mm-hmm.
And so 2/3 of the way or so through it, I went out in the tractor and braved the elements. And
he was so tough.
I was so tough. And I just
doesn't like cold.
Using I used the tractor to clear the driveway of the ice.
That really was.
Made a huge difference. It needed to be done during that before it was over, because if it was over and it was all hardened in place, it'd be a bad deal. This ice was not like just one clear sheet from the beginning either. It was like a whole bunch of sleet with then freezing rain. And so it didn't start super hard and you could work with it. Now it's hard, but it's got a lot of gravel mixed into it because I've continued to work it. So those are some of the things we did to prepare.
I did. We filled some buckets with water. I'd had some already planned, knowing that we would probably lose.
But that was more like for drinking.
I had all sorts of water. I just didn't have as much as I needed. So
because when you have 8 people in a house,
confined to a house for days,
they eating food.
Mm-hmm.
Food has when you eat, there's
you digest
byproduct.
Mm-hmm.
And so we were dealing with the byproduct,
and
you can flush a toilet usually by dumping about 1 gallon of water in it and it'll flush. But if it's a little more challenging, you might be up towards 2, which two at the same time. Come on, Martin, here, help me do this. And
It's
we were able to not have any terrible consequences. But it was fun. And that was probably the biggest confirming takeaway.
Yeah.
Right?
It
was not just fun for us.
No. I texted with a friend who's nearby who actually was without at least a day longer than us. So they were up to 4 days and they've got 5 kids. And after it all, I said, you get the Caroline Ingalls Award. And she said, oh, well, whatever. It was kind of fun. And I thought like that really, it made me so happy for their family, because what that meant was they were confined together and they figured out how to make life work in the simplest way together, and they enjoyed it. And I mean, of all people, I mean, mom and dad are the ones that carry the brunt of responsibility, right? So we have the anxiety component as far as like making sure everybody's got what they need and we're warm enough and the property's safe and all of that. So for mom to be the one saying that, and this mom is a particular hard worker. So like, that's cool. That was really cool to hear that. And also like other friends, one who only lost power for a day, kind of saying, and now we're just expected to go back to normal. I don't know what to do with that, and that's one that doesn't often, they're not a particularly outdoorsy kind of family, or
it's kind of like when
farmy kind of family.
It's kind of like when somebody comes off the mission field, like after being in Uganda for 15 years, 20 years, 30 years, and they come home to America and they're like, now what do I do?
Mm-hmm.
I have no purpose. Or you get out of the military.
I was gonna say, it's like
things like that. It's part of this thing, right?
Yeah. And one thing I did notice, we haven't actually talked about this out loud, but our pastor's wife texted at one point, like, I hope the kids aren't squabbling, because our kids squabble. Surprise. By the way, the stay-at-work-home people, their kids fight a lot, actually, especially boys.
Put down, do push-ups.
And so, like, we're stuck together a lot, and they were having to do things different than normal. We weren't just getting to cook the meals we planned. We had, different things that couldn't be as picky. They actually all had to contribute. So we can talk about that a little bit more, but she said, I hope they're not squabbling as much. And I realized, like, while we didn't have power, maybe twice could I remember like an actual brawl, which on a normal day we have twice in an hour in the morning. And then they'll like twice. It's like they do it like hobbits eat food. They have like 2 brawls per meal hobbits eat. So at least
it's time for third morning fight
per set of kids. How about that? And I just really realized, like, they really didn't fight a lot. And our kids, by and large, all 6 of them, our oldest included, like, really enjoyed our time without power, which was kind of cool.
I think I enjoyed it the least of everyone.
Well, you're outside the most, too.
And I was sick.
And you're sick, yeah.
If I wouldn't have been sick, I'd have enjoyed it.
Mm-hmm.
The kids got none of the anxiety and all of the fun.
Yep.
And they loved it.
Yep.
So the question is, then, what can we take from this experience and then move into life? And of course, we'll try to address the question a little bit. Why is it that it's so much fun and that we miss it when it goes away? Early on in the experience, we had the light. So the power went out for an hour and a half. And we waited. I don't know how long we waited before we did anything, but waited a little bit. And then I went and got the generator, and I had to go up to the barn to get some of the extension cords and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So I brought all this down. We got the generator up front.
We started the water in the cabins, which was a big deal.
Oh yeah, started getting the cabin set up so that they wouldn't freeze. Got all the extension cords run. Got the generator running. Got Starlink plugged into, which, by the way, worked like a champ.
It did.
The antenna did not get frozen up the entire time, even though it was left, like, because I had to take power away from it some, and it got some buildup on it. And then as soon as we turned it back on, it burned it right off, and it worked awesome. Mm-hmm. So, affiliate link coming in the show notes. Go get your Starlink
for sure,
and it does have a discount. Mm-hmm. We may get paid for it, but we're telling the truth.
Yes.
It rocks.
It is awesome.
So as soon as I got all that set up and sat down, the power came back on. I was like, well, darn, if I'd have known that was all it was going to take, I'd have gone ahead and done it. I'd have had the power back up in a half hour instead of an hour and a half.
That was on Sunday afternoon.
That took us, when the power came back on, it got us through supper. And then, actually, it didn't get us through supper. it got us to where the last plate had the food on it. Like, here's the food, and then the power went out.
So,
and I said, all right, dinner time, everybody. Let's get dinner 8, right? So
I was gonna say what was interesting, like, so we took a little while to like get moving once the power went out. It was still daylight at that point too, which made a difference. Not having light makes a huge difference. But then once the power came back on, we kind of went into turbo mode.
When it went out again.
Okay, now we've actually so we kind of had a trial run. It's actually a mercy in a lot of ways, because things that bothered me in the in-between is like, oh, there's dirty dishes everywhere. So what did? We went quickly and started the short load on the dishwasher, and like I cleaned out the sink, and we started dinner quickly and got everything moving in there, and we filled up more buckets of water. Still not enough. We I've been collecting ice cream buckets, empty ice cream buckets since the beginning of the dawn of time, and I get chastened for it regularly. And would you like to make a statement?
Becky can keep all the ice cream buckets she wants as long as she stores them in an efficient manner.
Anyway, so we may have 15 or 16 gallons of water so far stored underneath our sink, because I'm now officially a hoarder of water. Anyway, to flush toilets with. So we went into turbo mode, and then I said the words, honey, thank you so much for like pushing me to get the dishes done, because that really was going to be a burden. So thank you so much for telling me to do that. I can go without power now. Like,
it's the only time my wife has ever been like super thankful to me. I mean, she was gushing thankful that I told her to do the dishes. Asked her, suggested to her.
Yep.
Seriously. Okay, so this was all.
What happened after I said the words? Like, not even 10 seconds. The power went out. After I said, I can go without power now.
And it didn't come on.
It was a movie scene.
Almost 72 hours after that. So that was all to say that when that power went out, when the power came back on, after I had got everything set up, we had candles out, everything's plugged in the generator, and I go, power comes on. Mercy, 6 years old. I think, did she cry?
I don't know. She
did. She cried a little bit.
I don't remember that.
I don't want to come back on yet. I mean, she was very upset that it came back on so quickly, because then it was like, okay, blow out all the candles and go back to normal life. If normal life is that great, why do we get upset? Why have to go back to it? There was a great sense of like purpose. There's a novelty to it for sure, and we got tired of a lot of stuff, but there was a great sense of purpose. The thing is that I think for us, because we're already doing so much in our home, we're running businesses, we're doing stuff from the house all the time as a family, it was less of a difference than it is for most people, because we're already engaged in a lot of different tasks, just keeping up the property, dealing with the rentals, dealing with other businesses, homeschooling. Like, there's always some unifying purposes out there going on, taking care of animals.
But it's almost like we've been faking it in a way, because it hasn't been it has been required, but it isn't for survival. It hasn't felt like survival.
We really added like,
you go to survival.
No, you want to survive, or just stop stuff from breaking, because the cabins were going to be, pipes would bust and all this stuff if we didn't do something about it, because it went down into the teens the second night, and so we really had to do stuff then. But your friends were like kind of felt the same way. The ones that live in suburbia,
or just different ones experienced it different ways. But a general consensus, and I haven't talked to all of them at length, was that there was a refreshing to it that, we don't ask for suffering or trial. And I mean, boy, does it put in perspective what suffering and trial is. Keith said at one point, and like, I needed to kick myself each time he said it, because I really, when I start to get that little desire to complain, it's like,
before you say it, what I said, I want to introduce it right.
Okay.
That first night in particular was a little bit scary, because big limbs were coming down. Some fairly big limbs landed on the house. There's a big tree down over there, and there's thousands of trees within a quarter mile of the house, right? So just all these cracks and bangs and slam, and every few minutes something like that would happen. And one of those resulted at some point, I guess, earlier in the power going out. Mm-hmm. So I said, "You can finish it."
Oh, I can finish it. Well, he said, "Hey, this is just like what it's like in Ukraine every night, except they're not limbs, they're bombs." And you'd recently we've just been talking about what was going on in Ukraine and realizing that like one of the biggest tactics is that people destroy each other's power sources. And we just heard the podcast. Right. Well, okay. I mean, but let's just, it is an efficient way to make
exactly a two-way.
No, but it's an efficient way to make a statement, and horrible. Like in this case,
blackouts.
Right.
To the extent they can. And, what do you do at night? You can't heat your house with the power sources that you were used to doing it with. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of wood fires going on, coal fires, gas fires, and everybody gathers around it because you can't use up too much of it. You don't want to heat the whole house up probably. So everybody's in the same room. So we were in the room, we were all gathered around. We were reading. I think we were reading out loud or something. And it was like, well, this is kind of what it's like in Ukraine, except for the bangs that we hear aren't bombs.
That didn't help my anxiety with this. I actually couldn't sleep upstairs at all because every time I heard the wind blow, I was getting a little panicked, partially because like there is a really big oak that doesn't lean towards the house or anything, but it is really close to the house, and limbs from it could cause trouble on the house. And as far as we can tell, they didn't, even though some of the limbs came down. But I just have, when you start getting tired and it's an experience of like not knowing what's coming. Like I've been in an ice storm before in Atlanta, actually, a long time ago, but my parents remember that. And you just didn't realize, you don't think about what that damage what is actually happening. And then how completely, like you walking around outside, if you're underneath trees, we had to call the kids in when they're not playing in it, because at any given point, limbs near them would come down and they wouldn't necessarily know where they're going and how they're going to fall. And they are sharp and they are heavy and they are dangerous. So anyway, I had to sleep down in the basement with the kids, which started us sleeping all together.
And by had to, it meant that she left me
cold in his own bed by himself, where we didn't have heat. No, you didn't, because you're sick. So you ended up downstairs with us too. That's right. Actually, that was funny. The night we had power 2 nights ago, everybody most everybody wanted to sleep.
They just wanted to keep on sleeping in the same room.
Yeah.
The way we did that too was we got all the cushions from couches around the house and just laid them together and put blankets over them and then on top of people, and
we were perfectly warm. Like we had,
and that was by the wood stove too. Which didn't hurt.
We all like to gather there anyway. So all that to say, I feel like our stay at work homeness was put to the test. Annika had a funny comment. She said, "Well, Mom, at least we're already Amish-ish." And perhaps that's what made us not quite as scared. But even our friends who are not Amish-ish, maybe that's what's really impressive.
Well, not even just scared, but like happy,
or capable and able. Like we went into a mode of okay, we can figure out what the next right thing to do is. That's not, and it wasn't traumatic or.
It relieves you of sort of intermediate
minutia.
Say minutia, but like intermediate expectations. Mm-hmm. So the things that you have, it stops you from doing like medium-term planning, because the stuff that you were going to do a day or 2 or 3 or 4 from now, it's just canceled. Like in our case, church on Sunday was canceled, but other things that people would normally have scheduled really for this entire week, just, okay, never mind. Stuff that would have been normally very hard to walk away from, hard to disengage from, cut. It's done. And
it's the things that stress us out. Actually, that's interesting. I never thought about that before. It's the medium planning that is the most stressful in life, period. Like the immediate planning, like I need to go wash the dishes, like that. That seems
that's
change the laundry.
Immediate.
That's immediate. That's easy, right? Because
immediate versus intermediate versus long term. 5-year plans are not stressful.
No.
5-minute or 5-hour plans usually aren't stressful. 5-day planning,
that is where
there's a lot of stress within that
Mhm.
5 days, and you plan in order to mitigate some of that stress and make it flow easier. But it is the place of the most stress naturally.
I'd say between 5 days and a month. Like that's the hard. That's the difficulty in life. That's why we often have said with friends, like, hey, people invite us over, like, oh, sorry, we're busy, or we've got something we can't avoid, or we've got this, people are coming over here, there. So don't ask, we would say, like, don't ask us to plan something, but if you have a last minute thing, let us know. Or like we plan it 6 months.
Like, hey, can you come over right now?
And it is crazy. Like the amount of times we can say yes to last minute. So if any of you want to invite us over, as soon as you hear this, just give us a call right away. And we'll
probably be busy, but maybe. So much for having.
Anyway.
Food, other stuff.
Let's see. So stay at work home. Ooh.
Okay, a title. We haven't got a title yet. So you wanted to say tested. Did the stay at work home survive? That wasn't what you said, but I just said it, and I like it. What do you think?
I kind of thought, like, did the stay at work home work?
Did the stay at work home work? Question mark. Did the stay at work home
or want to do
survive? Did the stay at work home stay?
You all know, if you're watching on YouTube, you know that you click on videos when they say something scary,
fire,
controversy. Exactly. Make it seem like we give up. If I said that, did we? And I could put like a tiny "did" in the title, and do it. Give up? Question mark.
Oh, wait a minute. Hold on. How about did we give up? Question mark. The stay at home work gets tested. The stay at work home gets tested.
Okay. Anyway, the whole point being, it's fun to kind of get a little bit
for real.
Yeah, a little tested for real, something like that. We'll keep playing on it, and you'll know by the time you see this what it is, because it will be there. But we will say, yes, it did get tested, and
that's great. Other than being sick, which has nothing to do with it.
I even think what's interesting, we've kind of been more intentional in the stay at work home thing in the last year before we started podcast, but this has been a thing we've been working on and working through and processing. But I still think 2 or 3 years ago, we wouldn't have been as prepared to have this have been a good experience, but it still would have been a good experience.
Sure.
For many reasons.
Okay, so I'll tell you something we did. So we DIY'd. You DIY'd. You made me that drink, which is a little bit left.
You want it right now?
Okay, what's in it?
Oh boy. So he was sick, really congested. Needed some cough medicine, if you will. So we were making a hot toddy. And I mean, like, boring old hot toddies with, honey and lemon and all that stuff. It's like, come on. We have this cranberry juice and we have orange juice, which he loves orange juice. It was like, I wonder if I could do a cranberry orange hot toddy. So I did. And then the recipe called for a couple of like spices. So you cook it down for a little while with anise and cinnamon and clove. And then I just know, like, he was asking for hot sauce because last Christmas when you were sick.
Oh, yeah, Jenny was here.
And hot sauce, like, was what helped clear both of them. She was sick too. It was really, like, they were putting in everything.
A hot sauce cocktail.
She made a hot sauce cocktail. And I was like, ooh, we need something spicy. And I thought, well, we have this. I wish if you're listening and you know us and you've known us for like 5 or 10 years, tell me where I learned to find this particular pepper. But it's mild red Indian pepper, I think. And it looks like paprika or something.
We got it from that big
And we got it from DeKalb Farmers Market in Atlanta. It's down to just a little bit. So I was like, oh, I should use some of that because I'm out of regular cayenne or something. And I've been using it and replace that. And it is a unique hot. It's hot, but doesn't kill you. But it's kind of,
then it moves.
It has this I know.
It's so good.
So that's the critical ingredient.
She made that
he liked the most, and he's been hooked on ever since.
If you put a little something else in there too, that doesn't hurt.
You can do it plain. It's fine without whiskey. So
I've never had some kind of natural remedy like that gave me 2 hours of not feeling bad, because like I had a sinus infection, y'all. It was hurting so bad up in here in my sinuses, and that went away for like 2 or 3 hours. And then I think it actually it didn't just treat the symptoms.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't like it was killing the pain. It actually
we were doing
cleared
some
it
other
out.
stuff too, though.
We did some other stuff. Mullein leaf tea and mullein leaf tincture, which apparently in our little county, there's
a really
place
cool
that
farm
grows the stuff and bottles it.
So then it's actually local. It's a plant that grows easily here. And we went to Sam's Club one of those days to get a hot meal, and maybe just to get a hot meal. I can't remember why else we went up to town. To get mullein leaf. Yeah. And because the roads were relatively passable. So the roads are not the biggest problem in this ice storm. It was the power that was the biggest problem. And some places had power. So the town had power. Anyway, so we went to town and bumped into an older fellow from our church and asked him if he'd ever heard of mullein leaf. And I knew he liked kind of natural remedy stuff as well. And he said, let me tell you about mullein. My wife makes me go out and hunt mullein leaves, and we have 80
gallons of mullein
leaf. So I was excited to hear that it wasn't just something that.
Actually, I think he said, I've still got about a peck of mullein leaf.
He used a real measurement, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, mullein leaf seemed to be able to pull out congestion and such. And and then we did get one hot shower. Our neighbors across the street. Who don't live here. Yeah. Actually, they're moving here soon, but they got power back. It was only 24 hours, maybe a little more than that. When did they get theirs back? Right, and it was Monday. Yeah. And he offered to let us come over, and so we all got a hot shower, and
most of our street got the power back after 24 hours, but our particular spot, because the line down to our house, which also services one of the cabins, they thought it was risky. They didn't want to restore it to just have it send the whole neighborhood down again. So they didn't turn us on. They kept us off longer than everybody else, which they were vindicated because by the time they came out to turn it on, something had fallen on it that they had to clear. So
there we go.
Okay. 2 housekeeping notes. If you haven't watched or listened to the last episode with Dr. George Grant, you should.
You should listen to it.
And
follow him everywhere you can find him. Yeah. George Grant is the kind of person who is going to he gives you comfort in the crazy of today, but because of the way God is.
But also an impetus to do as well.
Yes. Yeah.
It's not.
Or listen to him.
It's not hopeless. Doesn't make you depressed.
Mm-mm.
Great. Other thing. So this basic concept that why is it? I just want to show you guys what's going on here. You can see the video.
I just was going to let him see this. I'm winding up a ball of yarn because I told the kids I was going to throw it away, but for some reason my children can do this with a couple of balls of yarn. We've been crocheting a lot in the last few days. Anyway, I like this color.
Okay. So why is it that when the power goes out for some length of time, as long as your situation's not so desperate that everyone's dying, that it's basically just enjoyable? Well, the whole entire concept of the Stay at Work Home is based on asking that question. And if you haven't read The Big Idea, go to the stayatworkhome.com and you can read The Big Idea. I think it's called The Big Idea. Mm-hmm. You can also, if you go to my blog, which is The Memeticist on Substack, you can read that article and you can also listen to it so that you don't have to read it.
We'll try to get that up on the blog at some point.
Because reading's hard.
It is. Don't judge our blog. Anyway, it's a work in progress.
We'll talk to you guys later.
Bye. Cheers.
This episode of the Stay at Work Home is brought to you by HeartlandBunkies.com. Come check out our full line of small cabin kits that can be easily assembled by a few friends or family in just a weekend for extra space for meaningful connection, or extra income, or a home office, a homeschool room, or whatever.